You're amazing, Conor. You're amazing, Conor.
It's a hard one to swallow. I mean, obviously, I didn't come into the fight thinking it would be that close. I didn't come into the fight to lose. I didn't come in the fight for anything apart from winning. And obviously, it weren't good enough. So I need to do better. I didn't think I lost the fight. I mean, I can't really say. I don't want to be delusional and say, yeah, I think I won the fight or think I lost the fight. I think it was a close fight, and that's it. I could have done better. 14 months out of the ring, maybe played a factor in the fight. But I just want to say what an amazing turnout. Really did feel like a homecoming. But it's a blessing to be fighting back on British soil.
Is there a high level of respect between you and Junior now?
I mean, I wish him well. I know he's gone to the hospital. I've heard he's got a broken jaw. So I wish him a speedy recovery. I also want to thank Senior for turning up because this really is a family affair, and it wouldn't have been what it was without Senior there. I mean, I couldn't really hear, to be honest. All I heard was it was unanimous, and now that threw me off. But then I've heard Sky had me going into the 11th round a point up. So I mean, it's a hard one because I felt like it could have been close. Felt like it could have been a draw. Felt like it could have gone my way, his way. I can't really say. All I know is I gave everything I had in there tonight. And as I said, it wasn't enough. So I need to do better.
I saw my 100-metre sprint from Ben Whittaker, so I promised myself I'd keep it calm tonight, but I couldn't be more happy, more proud. Look, I have to be honest, I was shocked. I was shocked at what an unbelievable fight it was. I was shocked at how good Conor Benn was. I'm okay to say that. I think Eubank Jr got the shock of his life in those early rounds, and then he just came on strong, dug deep and showed his class, and those last 2 rounds were phenomenal. But unbelievable fight, and an unbelievable night, and great for Senior to be here as well.
How did you score it, Ben?
Probably 3 or 4 rounds in Junior's favour, but as I say, I think those last 2 rounds were really what took Junior far ahead. I think it was nip and tuck up into that. Look, for me, Junior should be winning in more devastating fashion, in my opinion. But Conor Benn was phenomenal. I look, maybe I've underestimated Conor Benn. I did not expect it to be like that. I thought he was really, really good. I thought Chris had to end up being really, really good, and we just saw a phenomenal fight. I mean, for any boxing fan watching that for the first time, what do you think? You see Eubank, you see Ben, you see Chris Senior, you see the emotion, you see the family ties, and then you get to see a 12-round unbelievable fight. It's the greatest advert for British boxing we've had in a long time.
Better, a lot better, bro. A lot better. What a fight it was. Just massive props to Conor Benn, bro. He's a welterweight at the end of the day. He come up, great fight. I had it a draw personally. Yeah, I had it a draw. Very close fight. Done their fathers proud, done the boxing world proud, and yeah, brilliant, bro.
What were the key moments for Eubank? What do you think won him the fight?
I think it was the little burst he kept doing at the end of the last 3 rounds, and I think the only thing that kind of played in his part was the experience. But then I keep saying that, but then I still had it a draw. But yeah, I think they should do it again.
If one was to win, who would you have given it to?
It's a bit of a hard one, that, but I'd have to pick Eubank, only because he pushed the pace, and like I said, that's due to experience. But yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for waiting. I think it's fair to say we witnessed one of the greatest fights in British boxing history tonight. Both men just showed the most incredible heart, desire. But the man to my right, for me, I've just witnessed one of the great performances from a British fighter. 147-pound fighter, whether you like it or not, moved up and just never stopped trying to win the fight. I thought the fight could have gone either way. I know a lot of people thought he won, Eubank won, whatever. But I want to talk about the performance, the heart, the mentality, and the never say die spirit from Conor Benn tonight, because I can't believe what I witnessed. There's going to the well and there's going to the well and just never ever giving in, but never stop trying to win the fight. Not trying to survive, trying to win the fight. And obviously there's a lot of people in this room, we know what he's been through. You know, opinions are opinions, and for me tonight, Conor Benn become the people's champion, because this kid is a great kid, and he's always been a great kid. But tonight, he showed you it in the flesh. 14 months out of the ring, never experienced that kind of occasion before. 65,000 people, and he stood in the ring and he had it. He took the kitchen sink off Eubank, and he kept on trying to win the fight. So I just want to say before I pass over to him how proud I am of you, Conor. I think it was an amazing performance. You should be very proud of yourself. I know how devastated you are, but honestly, that was just unbelievable to watch, and thank you for giving us that tonight. Thank you very much.
What a fight, lived up to the hype, yeah, it was a great fight, what can I say? You know what I mean, I think Eubank did enough to win, but very competitive all the way through. On edge of your seat, it was good.
Were you impressed by Conor, because ultimately he was the lighter fighter in there tonight?
Yeah, you know, Eubanks is no Golovkin, you know what I mean, you could see the weight, he started to look tired, but you know, Conor had that energy, you know, moving up the weight, he had more energy inside him. But you know what I mean, equally matched, you know what I mean, he lived up to the hype, and you know what I mean, they didn't let the fans down.
Is that how you scored it, 116, 112?
I don't know, I had him 2 rounds. In the last couple, it were neck and neck, and then I had the last couple of rounds where he took it.
What do you think Conor would have to do different in a rematch?
I don't know, I think he would have learned loads from that fight, you know. I would have liked him to start, you know, in the smaller fight, use his jab more, you know, more twitches, more feints, you know, worked a better game plan, but you know, he didn't do much wrong, to be fair. You know, he fought best with his ability.
The only reason this fight is a 50-50 is because of the weight. For me, Conor's younger, fresher, better puncher, you know, better technician, more skill, better footwork. But he's at a big weight disadvantage.
Recently, Eddie Hearn revealed some insider information that sheds new light on the bout between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Fans might not be aware of all the factors involved, including marketing strategies and weight concerns. The only question now is who will win the upcoming bout between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., which has everyone's attention. It's not a fight though. As Eddie Hearn noted, their fathers had a single bout in the ring, and now their sons, both of whom are ranked in the top 15 in the world, are starting to write their own pages. It's a legacy at risk, not a battle.
Their fathers, it was the biggest, deepest rivalry in the history of British boxing, right? And now their sons, who are both world ranked in the top 15, Conor in the top 5 in most, are fighting each other. The sons, right? And like, they are ready to fight each other now, here. And like, the build-up's been huge. It's a massive event. It's going to do huge pay-per-view numbers. And yeah, what is it, two weeks away on Saturday?
Eddie wasn't afraid to speak about the story behind Chris Eubank Jr. being favored. He clarified that the only real reason Eubank is favored is due to his natural size advantage. In Hearn's opinion, this fight is actually a 50-50-ish, not due to skill disparities, but due to Conor Benn putting everything on the line by moving up 2 entire weight classes. That aggressive move, in Hearn's opinion, levels the playing field. He echoed that if the two combatants were the same natural size, the odds would be heavily in Benn's favor, and this fight would be much closer than people think.
I think the one thing that Chris Eubank has that Conor doesn't in this fight is size and probably strength. What he doesn't have, in my opinion, is the boxing ability, the speed, the movement of Conor Benn. Don't get me wrong, if this fight was at the same weight class, Conor Benn's a big favourite. But Conor Benn's coming up 2 weight classes, and that's what makes this fight a 50-50. Eubank has the size, but Conor has the speed, the sharpness, and in my opinion, the ability.
Billy Joe Saunders joined in with an opinion that largely mirrored Eddie Hearn's, particularly in terms of Eubank Jr.'s physicality. He recognized Eubank's massive size and physical power, observing that his face bears signs of heavy sparring and mileage. Saunders did, however, make a distinction between being a good fighter and good boxer. In his opinion, Eubank is physically strong but without the subtle technicality and ring IQ that constitutes genuine boxing greatness. Although crediting Eubank with toughness, Saunders feels that Benn's quicker timing, energetic youthfulness, and better energy management may bring out the weaknesses of Eubank as the rounds go on.
I've said it from day one. He will never be world champion.
Is that because you don't like him?
No.
Or is that because you don't think he's got the capability?
I'll tell you the reason why. Simon, because I've been in the ring with him. I know the difference between your David Lemieux, why I can see why they were world champion, your Andy Lees, why they were world champion, even John Ryder. Eubank can fight, but he just can't box.
Right.
That's the problem. He can fight, but he can't box. Eubank is, when we were going back 24, 25, like a wind-up toy, you could get him fit, wind him up, let him go, and he'd go all day.
Yeah.
Now we're at the stage of 33, 34, where you've got to learn to pace yourself, pick your punches, flow around. No disrespect to Liam Smith, but he was no different than a punch bag.
Well, you don't think he's going to win a world title?
He'll never, ever, ever be... I'll tell you what I would do with you, Simon. I'll have a bet with you now, and I'll give you 2-1, and I will pay me bets.
Well, I'm not like coach as well, yeah.
I will pay me bets. He'll never be world champion.
But while the son is under the limelight, Chris Eubank Sr. hasn't remained silent. He's expressed genuine concern for his son, conceding that he's worried about the way the sport is being managed today. In his opinion, the way things are being managed today by promoters would have been illegal a few years back, which gives an entirely new dimension to an already high-risk bout.
These are not dangerous men now. This is built on hype. So we look to the promoters. I'm watching you. I'm on you, okay? And this will not stand. You know, your licenses should have been revoked a long time ago, okay? And that time is here. Trying to boil my son down to 157 a few years ago, it would have killed him. Killed. It's real for us, okay? And what these people are doing, they're running amok. It's uncontrollable. This is not who we are, okay? As fighters, and the promoters have a duty of care to the fighters.
Xavier Miller provided a partially concurring opinion with Eddie Hearn on Chris Eubank Jr.'s size advantage, but differed widely on how he judged the fight as a whole. While Hearn labeled it a 50-50 fight because Conor Benn was leaping up 2 weight divisions, Miller downplayed the idea of it being even. He claimed that this fight is far from even. Conor has to struggle to cut weight, whereas Eubank is naturally coming into the division. Miller highlighted that such extreme weight gain can drain a fighter, both physically and mentally, giving a legitimate advantage to the naturally more Eubank.
But you know, if Chris is even 70% of what he was, he's far too big for Ben. If he is really gone and shot, then yeah, he has a very good chance, because you know, he's the guy that can eat comfortably. You know, he doesn't have to pull himself down to make weight. You know, I look at it the same as I look at the, you know, obviously the Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fight. You know, a lot of people just don't understand. You know, one guy planned not to make weight, and one guy was actually working hard to make the weight. It's not a fair fight, and that's without even talking about, you know, the accusations about with the PEDs.
Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Jr. took no nonsense about the claim he's being picked because he's big. Standing firm, he insisted on being respected based on his wins and experience, and not by physique alone. Speaking in rebuttal, Eubank Jr. brought out before the world his record, wars he has weathered, and the elite ring partners he had fought against. He vented frustration that analysts appear to play down his skill set and strategy for the superficial metrics of weight and reach. For him, it's not about size, it's about legacy, ring education, and proving once again that he's among the elite.
You know, where's the respect? You know, I've had 34 fights, 25 KOs, and I can only beat this guy because I'm a bit bigger than him?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
I'm gonna beat him because I'm a better fighter than him.
But you're not.
In every single
But
department.
you're not. If you look at your career's done.
I don't know. But he cannot beat me, that's for sure.
Size has unquestionably been one of the most contentious variables in this bout, particularly with how each combatant is coming at it from opposite directions. Chris Eubank Jr must drop down to a lighter weight, which could potentially cost him strength and stamina, while Conor Benn is bulking, adding likely power. Eubank Jr, who was criticized, insisted that cutting too aggressively could be a costly mistake. He cautioned that stepping into the ring under anything other than full capacity would ultimately come back to bite his son, converting what would otherwise be a strength into a perilous weakness.
For the Metro newspaper, and in that interview, Conor walked in, and I said to Conor, and I was saying to Nigel, please, don't do this. You know what it is to, my son is 33. For him to drop 3 pounds beneath 160 puts his life in danger. And Nigel said, sorry, if he doesn't take the fight, if he's above that, then he's going to have to pay a forfeit of £300,000. And I said, well, I'm very happy to pay that. So please, stand down. I was speaking to both of them. Nigel said, no, he's not standing down. He said he signed a contract. He's a grown man. So I said, Nigel, please, my king, please, don't do this.
Relations between Chris Eubank Jr and his dad have grown more public. In a recent interview, Eubank Jr made it very clear he wishes to make his own choices, finally out of his father's shadow. He emphasized that he's a grown man, and he can dictate his own fate, win or lose. The generation gap became evident as Jr underscored his autonomy, saying he's had enough of trying to live up to someone else's picture. His message was assertive. This is his fight, his career, and nobody, not even his iconic father, gets to control his course anymore.
We are fighters, I'm 35 years old. I'm not a kid anymore. You can't be worried or fearful for my safety. If as a man I feel like I can do something, if I can achieve something, you have to be happy with that, support that, and not go against it because you believe it's not right or it's not okay or it's against the rules. The fight is going to happen. He's still saying things like the fight won't happen. And I can't even say it's crazy of him to say that because he said it the last time and the fight didn't happen. So even though it still is crazy for me to hear him say that, I've got to just let him say it. But the fight will happen. And he should be there.
In support of Chris Eubank Jr.'s fears, Nathan Heaney notably pointed out the risks of brutal weight reduction coupled with a stringent rehydration policy. As Heaney suggests, if Eubank Jr. is not permitted to fully rehydrate, he might start the fight weakened, compromising not only the outcome but his own health. The physical price of losing and being unable to replace that water weight in time can impact stamina, resistance to punches, and concentration. Heaney's position reflected concerns that Eubank is sacrificing too much of himself before he even gets in the ring, making life easier for Ben.
Ben shouldn't get anywhere near him, to be honest, in terms of like the side. But then that's where all this controversy coming more recently in terms of rehydration clauses and all this kind of stuff. But the IBF have that anyway. But I don't think they're fighting for an IBF world title, so that's a totally different thing, to be honest. But yeah, it's one of them. It just depends how drained Eubank is obviously to make weight, and then obviously the rehydration. It's okay when you're making weight, but it's the part afterwards when you refuel and rehydrate. That's where the performance gains or declines will happen. And if he's not allowed to rehydrate correctly, then he's going to fall into bed.
Conversely, in response to his son, Chris Eubank Jr. did not come back with words of support or understanding. Rather, he doubled his disapproval, even calling his son a disgrace following some of his behavior during the press conference for the fight. The older Eubank seemed to be very disappointed, not only in Jr's behavior, but in what he sees as a lack of focus and dignity. His words indicated a profound gulf between father and son, a deeper emotional dimension that's now overflowed into the public domain. To SR, though, this has nothing to do with boxing. It's a matter of respect, legacy, and personal reputation.
Because I will not be an accomplice to their stupidity, to their circus. Junior, you're smashing an egg against this guy's face. I taught you that. I didn't teach you that. Who taught you that? Did Karen teach you that? That's disgraceful. I'm gonna stand in your corner. You must be mad. You must be mad. I would never be in your corner. You're a disgrace. You're smashing an egg in someone's face, and then you're saying you're trying to justify it. There's no justification for that. There's nothing noble about that.
Eddie Hearn, however, has attempted to remain as professional as possible, particularly in regard to the complicated dynamics between Eubank Jr. and Senior Hearn. Responded firmly that he's not inclined to comment on private family matters, repeating again that he's here to push the fight, not judge. In avoiding those strains, Hearn keeps himself balanced as a promoter whose role is to concentrate on the logistics and not emotions. He wishes the focus to remain on the fighters and the fight itself, not a father-son conflict that would otherwise serve to distract from the actual drama set to transpire in the ring.
Sad, you know, I mean, look, I think that it would be easy for us as the away corner, especially with all the abuse that Eubank's given me and the slander that we've received, for me to go in deep. But it's a personal thing, it's family for them. And, you know, it's sad to see. I hope that, look, even beyond this fight, there's more to life than just this fight. It doesn't look like they're going to get, you know, rekindled before the fight. Post-fight, I hope they can, you know, communicate and you know, get along. Life's too short. Eubank's got a lot to focus on next week, and you know he'll do it with his own. He's a big boy, and he'll be ready. And he's a tough kid. He'll give it everything. And it's a shame that anything happens like that, you know, between father and son. And I hope that they can, you know, manage to revive the relationship.
Notably, Johnny Nelson supported Eddie Hearn on this, explaining it's a family affair and not something the public or the media should be dissecting. While fans are hungry for every morsel, those involved in the fight appear to concur. Some things are best left behind closed doors.
Surprised Chris actually gave you as much as he actually did. I know Chris, he's very selective about when he talks, what he says, and so to get that line from Chris, you got an insight to what was going on in behind the scenes with the Eubank family chaos. You know what? There's a. It's not our business. There's an issue going on in the family. Chris is a father. He said that, you know, as a father, he's got to reprimand his son. Boy, I didn't teach you that. And as a son, as in Junior's like, Dad, I'm making my own path. This is how I do it. And that's always going to be the case. It's not until Chris is retired and Senior's retired and Junior's retired and he's achieved whatever he's had to achieve, then credit will be given. I know Senior, when he was doing whatever he did as a fighter, he got chastised. People called him everything from a pig to a dog, but he did it his own way. Still ended up being world champion. Still ended up being like one of you know, the UK's biggest names when it comes to boxing. He did it his own way. So he did his own experience to get his own wisdom. That's what Junior's doing. And so as a father, the father saying, you know what, you can't do it. I understand the love of a father. What are you doing, son? But only time will tell the story whether or not Chris's choices, Junior's choices, are the right choices.
And that's the breakdown. The weight, the mind games, the legacy, and the disrespect. If you believe this fight is larger than the scales, or if you're traveling with a man who claims it's all about skill, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single update in the build-up to this war. This one's getting personal, and we're just getting started. Catch you in the next round.